So now that we've gotten to step 3, we know that we've connected to QuickBooks from step 1 and successfully connected to Salesforce as step 2. So now we're ready to select the gauntlet of configuration options that we have in steps 3 through 7. The first option is, what email address do you want errors to be sent to whenever there is a problem with the integration, whenever DataSync runs into trouble? Next is, do we want DataSync to be one-way from QuickBooks to Salesforce, or do we want DataSync to be two-way from Salesforce to QuickBooks and back and forth? With this unchecked, DataSync will only go from QuickBooks to Salesforce. With this checked, DataSync will have the ability to move information from Salesforce to QuickBooks and be fully bidirectional. These two options will allow you to update existing invoices and sales receipts in QuickBooks from within Salesforce. If you want a sales rep, for example, to only submit an invoice into QuickBooks but then not have the ability to edit the invoice later, have these unchecked. If you want full transparency and you want to be able to update an invoice from QuickBooks or Salesforce, go ahead and mark that as checked. Step 4 is, what type of transactions do we want to enable? Sales orders are enabled by default. We can enable any of the rest of these. Most people will enable invoices and then also sales receipts. If you need to do estimates or credit memos, you can obviously also do that as well. Step 5 is, do we want to enable contacts? QuickBooks doesn't have contacts and accounts separate like Salesforce does. Salesforce has accounts and then contacts, and there can be multiple contacts underneath one account. QuickBooks just has one contact and one account looped together into one area. So if you want to be able to bring whatever contact that is in QuickBooks into Salesforce as a contact and not just update the account, make sure you enable contacts. Jobs are basically the hierarchy of customers in QuickBooks. So a job would be a sub-customer. So you can have multiple jobs for one customer. So what we're doing by enabling this is enabling the hierarchy to remain in Salesforce and QuickBooks. So let's say I have IBM as a customer. IBM is a customer, and then each division within IBM is a job underneath that customer. So IBM is the parent to all of the divisions underneath it. In that respect, in Salesforce, IBM would be the parent account, then all the divisions would be sub-accounts on there. So we can, in fact, enable the hierarchy. If you have the difference between businesses and consumers in QuickBooks, and you want to bring in person accounts into Salesforce instead of having everything imported from QuickBooks into Salesforce as simply just a business account, you can determine that based on the customer type. So if each one of your consumers in QuickBooks is of a certain customer type in QuickBooks, and you'll need to make sure you set that up ahead of time, you can put that customer type in here, and then when we bring in all your customers from QuickBooks into Salesforce, it will split that out appropriately and have the consumers as person accounts and the businesses as normal business accounts. Step 6 has to do with product options. Enable automatic product inserts means that anytime you add a new product into QuickBooks, we will automatically enable or insert that product into Salesforce during the next sync. So if you're adding new products and services often in QuickBooks, you may want to enable this feature. The enable QuickBooks item names to Salesforce product names basically flip-flops whether you want the product code to be the name or the product name to be the name in Salesforce. And finally, the schedule. DataSync can run set as never, which means you can run it manually at your own convenience, or you can set it to run automatically every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every hour, once per day, or twice per day. Most people run it once an hour or once a day. You don't really need to run it every 15 minutes unless you really have a high transactional high volume of transactions. Once you select your schedule, select Next, and we are completely done setting DataSync up. And it will load DataSync, the DataSync web interface, in a new browser, as you can see here. And so we're all done with the setup. If this does not pop up and there is an error, I'll put a troubleshooting, there's a troubleshooting button right here which will tell you how to bypass that. But next we will show you how to navigate all the options within the DataSync web interface.